Hey guys, welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. Are you supposed to say Valentine's Day to people that you're not Valentine's with? You know, like if you're over in a store and somebody says Happy Mother's Day and you say you too, and then you realize it's a 13-year-old boy. So, anyway, we are excited to answer your questions tonight. Ask the Advocate. Yes, it's a brand new jacket because nothing says love like shopping on Talbot's. Okay? All right, Bonnie, tell us the first question.
All right, first one out the gate is my son is in the ICU for respiratory failure. I got a call from the VP at the school saying that they were going to unenroll him. Can they do this?
The only person that enrolls children and unenrolls children are the owners. And I don't like children to be threatened. That seems sort of odd. They should be doing something just the opposite, like saying, what can we do to support you? Although I did have another family who had a child this week, had a medical condition, and the school district pressured her to unenroll her child. So unfortunately, a lot of times this is about getting paid at 9 a.m. during, roll call, but it would be a no for me. And then just tell them, if you have any questions, reach out to my advocate. I'm sure she can fill you in.
Okay, and I'm a general education teacher. I'm worried that my school and district are not complying with IEPs and are writing sketchy 504s. What can I do?
So as I'm sitting here looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 teachers who don't teach anymore, and listen, you could be like in a special place, like on a movie set. Then you were a teacher and you reported other teachers for not doing their job and it went really well. However, for the rest of us that live on the planet, it's probably not going to go so well. So I hear you. I certainly would just go, if you have a direct leader, if you don't, I don't know how it works for teachers or SPED teachers, if you have like a SPED lead or you have somebody that's the head of general ed teachers, usually it's the principals, right? The associate principals. And usually there's a principal that's assigned to special ed meetings, and then there's a principal that's assigned to 504s, and just share your concerns. And this is what I always say. Here's my concerns. How can I support you? And then let them answer that question.
Okay, and we've amended the IEP, but my son is still failing 3 classes. How is that possible?
So you can amend the IEP. You have to amend the product that you're delivering to kiddos. So one time I said on a TikTok, which went over really well, that if a child's failing in their IEP, it's the fault of the people that deliver and implement and adjust the IEP. And what I mean by that is that the law says that when the IEP is not working, it's the onus, it's the responsibility, it's the duty of the LEA, the local education agency, to actually convene an IEP meeting to look at adjusting the product, differentiating instruction, and changing the instructional model. For instance, I just had an IEP where the student had 4 IEP goals and she met, say it with me, none of them for the year. So the school is proposing, guess what? The exact same thing. So certainly there are children that make it impossible for you to deliver their IEP. I know that. There are parents that make it impossible for you to deliver the IEP. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a child that has an IEP and we haven't made adjustments. We're doing the same thing and he's getting further behind. So you've got to adjust the IEP. You've got to adjust the people delivering the IEP, and you have to adjust the instruction.
Okay, and what do you think of virtual screenings for incoming preschoolers? The team never sees the child. It's just an interview with the parent.
Well, if the parent's going to be in special ed, I guess that would be great. I think the great thing about virtual is you actually can see the little cherub, right? You can see the students. So I don't really know what that means. We appreciate parent report. We appreciate medical reports, but there's nothing that outweighs observing the student. So I would ask if there's a different location. You could do a local church. You could do a local library. You could do the courthouse, any sort of, public setting. You could come and bring the child so the school could observe them for sure.
Okay, and can we be required to have the exact same test accommodations or modifications for our grade for all ESS students who are pulled for small group testing?
So ask me that question. Can you have the same test?
That's what it says. Can we be required to have the exact same test accommodations modifications for our grade for all ESS students who are pulled for small group testing. So
that would be bizarre, wouldn't it? If every child had the same accommodations, that would make them, not individualized. So while I think there are some accommodations that teachers just kind of use anyway, maybe that's what she's talking about. But each child, even if they had the same eligibility, autism and a speech impairment, you got all little kids that have autism and speech impairment, they would all need different accommodations based on, as the law says, their unique circumstances.
Okay, my child has an IEP for reading but is struggling in math. We are already over halfway through the school year, and when I try to bring my concerns up, I am met with, she is getting service minutes, but she doesn't have any math goals. What can I do?
Sure. So the law says, the law of the land, which is Andrew F., March 17th, 2022. I'm sorry, that's not true. March 22nd, 2017. Boy, I got ahead of myself, didn't I? It's the U.S. Supreme Court decision that was heard, and it says in there that we have to deliver the child an IEP based on their unique circumstances, and so we're either doing that or we're not doing that.
And can a parent ask that her child use a specific bathroom in the school because she works there?
I mean, you could ask that. Again, when we have stuff that's part of the IEP, it's because we decided if that's not in the IEP, the student's not going to make expected gains, right? So if it's an accommodation, an IEP goal, it has to be part of what they need to benefit from a special education program. I find that sometimes parents are not realistic and they want things done for their kiddos that are special, that have nothing to do with their disability.
What do I do when the school disciplines my child for uncompleted homework?
Throw a fit, get a cell phone, go live on social media while standing on the front steps of the school, and call every news station in town. Yeah, do that. Yeah.
Can a school legally write a BIP without completing an FBA?
Well, the FBA is the parent of the BIP. Not all FBAs are blessed enough to give birth to little BIPs, but you can't have a BIP if you didn't have an FBA.
If parents are divorced or separated with 50-50 custody, where the parents must agree on all educational decisions, what happens when one parent wants to sign for an IEP and one parent does not?
So let's address that. So I'm a mediator for the family courts. So almost all divorce decrees have much more specificity than that now. So you could have, Chris and Christina divorced and they have equal rights. But at the end of the day, there will be language in there that if for some reason they can't decide, somebody's decision trumps that. So, but let's say what you're saying is exactly right. I am in IEP meetings and we will have a mother who's hired me and the dad who hasn't hired me, or vice versa, or just divorced parents, period, and they both have hired me. And the school only needs one parent to agree with the school. So that's why, and I train everybody, is that if you have different parents, or a parent and a wife and another husband and grandma, whoever have legal buy-in or say so, is that advocate, you get them all together and prep them ahead of time, because this is going to impact the child. And a lot of times when people are divorced and they're in an IEP meeting, they turn into, you never pay child support and you were never a good mother. And it turns into this, oh my goodness, like we're on court TV. That is not what that's about. The meeting is about one thing, making it a robust IEP so the student can have successful student outcomes. That's it.
And Jessica Sue 90 says, because of watching your last live, she finally got her son an IEP meeting. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Good job.
Okay, and when new versions of standardized tests are released, such as the WISC-4, are school districts required to use the newer version of the test for evaluation?
That's a really good question. So, we kind of talked about this in a training the other day. It kind of runs together. There are some great reading institutes around here in the little tiny starter city of Houston. However, they use reading assessments that are expired. They're not valid. So let's say a few years ago, the WJ4 came out. Well, that means that the WJ3 was in place. So the day the WJ4 came out, it's valid, and you could use the WJ3 for another 365 days. Why? Because these instruments and these protocols and tools are expensive, right? But that's one of the things when you're getting an IEE, often IEE providers use expired instruments. I don't think there's any malice, but you have to use the most current version. So when you get an IE, when you get an evaluation, make sure that you're looking at that and saying, hey, they use the help in Louisiana. And then you call one of your friends who's a diagnostician and say, is that legal? You want to make sure that the instrument is valid, it's current. And additionally, when you look it up, whether it's Hawthorne or Pearson or whoever or Flanagan, there's an age range. Sometimes they're from ages 2 to 6. And when we did Hope's evaluation, whatever, she ended up being 7. So look it up. That's why you are accessing the internet and use it for all those good things.
Hey, can you recommend any trainings or books to learn about negotiating and communication skills? I guess communicating around negotiating.
Communicating around negotiating. Is that a trick question, Bonnie? Yes, there's a great book by Troy. What is his name? I can't think of his. He was
Troy Gowdy.
Thank you, my alumni. Troy Gowdy has a great book called "It Never Hurts to Ask," and obviously he was in the government and Congress. He is a criminal attorney at the state level. I think it's from South Carolina. He is amazing, and this book is really about, how you navigate a courtroom, right? And I try to use some of those methodologies when I train my affiliates and my advocates, because you have to be able to negotiate a conversation. And so when I say that I'm teaching people to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes, you have to learn how to ask good questions, purposeful questions, questions that lead to the answer that you want. And good attorneys, good litigators do this. They ask questions that reveal the truth, right? And often we have a lot of words at an IEP meeting that do nothing, right? The parent just says, I'm mad. I don't like that. So the name of the book is It Never Hurts to Ask by Troy Gowdy. I have it on the paper and the thing that goes in your ear. I love the thing in my ear, but it's a great book. I also take classes from NITA, NITA.org, National Institute of Trial Advocacy, because when an attorney is litigating, it's actually called advocating, right? And great attorneys ask great questions. They get in, get the information, and then they get out. And so I think we waste so much time with unhelpful words at IEP meetings, often hurtful words. And we're really trying to get to the issue so we can address it and build an amazing individualized education program.
All right. So what happens when all the testing and data comes back and the child doesn't meet any eligibility areas, but the parent still wants an IEP?
Sure. So when you get your testing back, one of 3 things are going to happen, right? Either you come back with a child who is found to not need anything above what they give in the general ed class, is found to need something a little bit above called a 504 or an IEP. If you disagree with the findings, you could disagree with the findings and they still got an IEP. Then you ask the district, it's your formal request that I, Mandy Dean, am asking for an IEE, an individualized education evaluation at the expense of the district. Now you want to, when you reach out to the director and ask for that, indicate which components you're asking for. I think it's very rare that I've asked for the whole thing, but maybe I have. I won't tell you what state that was. The state of confusion. But usually I'm asking for, I disagree with the psychological part. I disagree with maybe we didn't do pragmatic in speech. I disagree that the AT person is an AT person because they're actually an SLP. Sometimes there's things like that. And then almost always the school is going to grant the IE at their expense. If they don't, then they have to sue you and take you to due process, which is fantastic because then the onus, the responsibility, the burden is completely on the school district to prove to a hearing officer why you just spent, I don't know, $20,000 as a school and a law firm to deny a parent a $1,500 IEE.
Okay, and how often would you request reevaluation for assistive technology when a student needs it, but the school says no?
So that's a good two-part question. So if I have a kiddo that has assistive technology, let's say that he used assistive technology, but I believe he's older now, he's able to use a more robust VOCD, voice output communication device, then I would ask for update for that. Again, if they've never given it to me, then I'm going to ask for the IEE. But annually, if you haven't had the evaluation annually, you can ask for new testing.
Okay, and for a student with ADHD, would extended time on tests be an appropriate IEP accommodation?
So this is just my opinion, which I am full of opinions. In case you didn't know, I have a doctorate in opinions. So if you would like them, I'm happy to send them to you in triplicate. Based on the 500 IEPs that I do a year for a little while now, it's not my experience that individuals that are diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, combined type inattention, or hyperactivity benefit from extended time. So let me just give you a little data around that. So if you get a speeding ticket, we have 90 days to take driver's ed, right? Do you know when people take that? Most of them take that within 48 hours of that 90 days. Most people do not do good with given extra time. And often I find kids with ADHD, it just leads to more procrastination. So what I find is if a child, no matter what their eligibility, we always put in extra time, that means that we probably need to give them special education, specially designed instruction instead of extra time. Extra time does not change his ability to acquire, retain, hold, and use information.
Okay, and then a student diagnosed autism and the school is refusing an IEP and a 504 because it isn't affecting their learning. Is that legal?
So I like that word. It's not affecting their learning. So a 504, the language around a 504 is this, that you have an identified disability and it impacts you in one of life, in a major life area. So you have to identify that. So I have kids that have autism that have an IEP that are probably going to end up the top, second, or third person in their entire class. But I have kids that have autism that didn't meet criteria. There's no educational need. So what is an educational need? Functional, emotional, communicative, academic, behavioral, social, all those things. And if it doesn't rise to the level of impacting him in the instructional setting, right, from bell to bell, then there is a possibility that he doesn't meet criteria.
Okay, and if an incident occurs at school involving your child, can a parent request to see the footage and request a copy of it?
So each school has very specific and tight requirements around that. So for me, if I have a client, this is what I would say. If you're alleging a crime, then I certainly would ask to see the footage. The problem with footage, even if there is audio, is that they're going to give you the piece of it. They're just going to give you the piece they want you to know, right? And so sometimes it's not enough information. I don't see what happened right before it. I don't, sometimes they've fuzzed out people. Sometimes it's hard for me to even tell who's going in or out. But certainly if you believe there's a crime, certainly ask to see the footage.
Okay, so this is a good question. What is the best way to learn about a special education department in Texas before moving there?
Oh, well, if you find that answer, will you tell me? District, which is phenomenal. But Klein Independent School District is phenomenal because of their leadership, because of their professional development, because of their requirements for their staff. When those leaderships move, migrate, retire, advance, and go to somewhere else, then you may not have the same leadership in place. So a school district is as good as its leadership. Campuses are as good as their principals. Teachers and special ed teachers are doing a great job, but schools are run by the sheriff, and the sheriff is the principal. And unfortunately, special education, even if it's a special education director, doesn't override principals at campuses.
Where in the IDEA does it state that data is required to be collected?
That is a really good question. So tomorrow night, are you guys coming tomorrow night? Of course you are. Tomorrow night, we are doing a training on TikTok, as long as it needs to be, on how you guys can learn how to file OCR complaints, the Office of Civil Rights complaints. I probably have 80, 90 open right now, and which doesn't make some people happy, which makes me thrilled. And so in the letter, you'll see, of course, we'll have all the names blacked out. When I go into and I file an OCR complaint, right? So I'm going to allege accommodations weren't implemented and service times weren't implemented. So here's what happens. Guess what? They're going to call and they're going to say, hey, you filed on behalf of Malachi, right? Mm-hmm. And you said ABC, Banana Head School, didn't take accommodations? Yes. So they're not going to call the school and say, hey, Karen said you didn't do that. Do you like Karen? Is she your friend? Do you like her? No, they're going to say, please provide me the documentation that refutes her claims. Provide me the documentation, right? So you either have documentation that you implemented Malachi's accommodations, and I'm a big banana head, or you don't. I love teachers. They change my kid's life. They change every kid's life that I serve. But nobody's training teachers to take data. If we didn't have to take data, then you wouldn't have to read the assurances at the end of the meeting. You know why you read assurances? You ought to ask somebody why you read the assurances. Because you receive federal funds. And to receive federal funds, you have obligations that end up in writing. So here's what you should know. Schools, states have to write a plan every year of how they're going to meet their IDEA goals. And if we don't take data in schools, we should close them. Every teacher in the building are data collectors. And why do teachers to collect data? So that they learn and know that what they've taught to said student is acquired and they can move on to the next thing. Did I get all worked up about that? I did.
It should be an awesome training.
It's going to be so good. Yeah. We can make more people irritated. Anybody up for that? Did I say that? I didn't say that. No.
If the LEA is aware of a child with unique physical needs entering their program, are they under obligation to have all physical modifications complete before the student starts?
So they're required to, which is part of tomorrow night. I'm so excited. Christina's excited. The more I learn about the ADA, the more I'm like frothing at the mouth. So no, I don't have to have every modification in place. And I haven't met those parents either, right? Like Christina, has that amazing cherub, Nicholas. But where he's going to be educated, where he's going to use the restroom, where he's going to eat, where he's going to play, where he's going to the cafeteria, has to meet national and federal standards. I didn't make the ADA. If I did, I wouldn't let a single business in the world open. I don't know how buildings open without being ADA compliant, but they do every day. Every day, every day. And I am going to file on every playground, every building that I have time to file on. And I want you to file on it. And listen, the reason people are upset is because nobody wants to turn over the apple cart. I think every child in a wheelchair from the ages of kindergarten to 5th grade should be able to go outside and play on the kindergarten playground and the 1st grade playground and the 3rd, 4th, 5th playground instead of sitting inside and never going outside.
Absolutely. Can you lead me to info on SLD math calculations? The evaluations show weakness in this area. Her grades and testing are good, so she didn't qualify.
So I love diagnosticians, and if I ever grow up, and I'm not planning on it because who wants to do that? I would be a diagnostician. I'm obsessed with diagnosticians. I'm obsessed with all diagnostics. I think they give you so much information. However, at the end of the day, hey, you guys, it is the diagnostician's interpretation of those results. Now, while they are standardized, right, you might be in a goofy state, which I love, Missouri, or another goofy state, Indiana, where you have to be 22.5. Why'd they do the 0.5? Like, I think we all know. I don't know what 0.5 is. Deviations. Here's the good news. Any state can use the RTI model. And the other good news is, in the federal law, 300.111D, which stands for duh, It says that a student doesn't have to be listed by disability as long as we know as a committee they are in need of special education and related services, and we provide that. So I don't understand why we die on this rock of, oh, he had an 85, but he needed an 84. Why don't we just give them what they need so we stop filling up prisons and we have amazing adults?
And lots of people have been asking, how do they find an advocate?
So I would either go to your state and say, hey, you guys have a list of attorneys or advocates. Almost all states do. They'll provide that. Just reach out to your state's Department of Education for legal. You can reach out to COPA, Coalition of Parent Adults. I don't know is there a Coalition of Parent Adults? Coalition of Parent Advocates and Attorneys. So COPAA.org. Or you can reach out to us. We have a team of advocates who provide the most amazing services to people as they navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes and IEPs. You can just email us at admin@specialeducationacademy.com.
And the training tomorrow, what time?
It's 7. It's 7 o'clock on the 7 o'clock time, Central Standard Time. That's right in the middle of the standards in the Central. Yes.
Lots of people are interested in that and saying they'll log in. So.
Yes. Because I can't file on every playground. I'm a little busy. But I did go into a football stadium this weekend, but it was all locked up. I was like, where's Christina when I need help over the fence? So
she'll get you in.
She'll get me in.
Okay, and let's see. My daughter has been denied speech therapy by the district, even though they agreed she needed it because she isn't failing school or being made fun of. Oh.
That's terrible. So what was she denied?
Speech therapy.
Okay. And so was she denied speech therapy or the testing? Again, if she had the testing and she didn't qualify, ask for the IE.
Okay. And then another parent says, I keep hearing that all of the autism support classrooms are full. Students are not getting the help, supports, or classrooms they need. What can I do?
So, you have to remember, always we want to save all the kids, but I would reach out to staff, to the leadership, which is going to be the principal, and say, this is what my child needs based on his unique circumstances and his eligibilities. Where are you going to provide that instruction? And also, if you're not able to provide the instruction that he needs, we are amenable to a brief IEP meeting to consider out-of-district placement at the school district's cost.
Okay, and then if a student moves from one district to another, when do the services of the IEP legally have to be followed, and do all of the minutes have to be followed the same?
Well, they have to be followed when he walks in the building. It's the weirdest thing. So the school district has to maintain and implement to the best of its ability and match services for 30 days. During those 30 days, they should be doing new tests if they need to do them. But often we'll get people, we're here in Houston and Texas, we'll get people that have IEPs from the East Coast that, my goodness, they're way more bougie than we do. But yeah, you have to match services for at least 30 days.
And Kim is asking, can they do a 504 without a parent present?
Yes. That's why I don't like 504s. They can call down the little cherub. They can call down your 7-year-old with a bunch of adults and say, hey, you don't really need extra time, do you? You don't need frequent breaks. You don't need extra water. You don't need any of these accommodations, do you? Yeah.
When is the most appropriate time to make a FOIA request on a district?
When you want information. That's when I would ask the FOIA request. So when we look at a FOIA request, one of two things are going to happen. Mostly one, we're going to file, right? So I need to have that information from the school district because you either have the data or you don't have the data, right? And usually the data that we see in open records are great school district speech pathologists, physical therapists, and OT usually take really good data. The rest of it's like my natural hair color. You can't find it. Can't find it at all.
Okay, and Melissa is asking to let you know that Allie would like to know how she can become an advocate.
Oh, Allie already is an advocate. We love her. She's so stinking adorable. And Allie is young and has disabilities, but she stands up against school districts already and holds their feet to the fire. So Allie We would love to train you and just tell your mother you can drop out of junior high and high school. I'm sure that will not be a problem. But yeah, we need advocates. There's 7.5 million children in America with an IEP. There's millions and millions and millions on a ridiculous, doing absolutely nothing 504. So we need to get them on IEP so they can be successful students and have amazing lives.
Okay, and then someone in Texas is saying, is there any art or music therapies we can request?
You can ask for music therapy. School districts really like that. They really like that. And so what is music therapy? So music therapy is an evaluation to see if the implementation of music while we're working on an IEP goal would increase outcomes. I had a lady the other day, I won't tell you where, and she goes, I couldn't finish the music therapy evaluation because he doesn't have an IEP. What? Yeah, you have to have related services that aren't working to get music therapy as a related service. Ma'am, let's not make things up, shall we? What?
Okay, and there is a fourth grader on a grade 1 reading level according to iReady and an intervention for 2 years. Would it be appropriate to ask for evaluation? Administration is saying no due to progress.
A 3-year gap in elementary school is about 30 decades. So if it took you, let's just say for numbers' sake, let's say that the fourth grader is 9. It took you 9 years to read at first grade level. You'll probably be reading at third or fourth grade level when you graduate. So I don't know what you're waiting for.
Okay. And why would a school suggest a 504 over an IEP for a student with ADHD and ODD?
Free. Say it with me. It's free. I don't know if I mentioned that it's free. There's no paperwork. There's no data. There's no services. There's no specially designed instruction. And I don't know if I missed this, but it's also free. It's free. Yeah. So when I go in and I have a kid on an IEP, your district's going to be spending $2,500 to $4,000. So free or, yeah.
Okay, and then the student has a dyslexia diagnosis. The school offers computer program only and the exact same for all the students. Is this legal?
So a computer is not direct instruction. It's just not. And if it's Lexia, oh Lord, don't even get me started. So Lexia is a supplement. The computer is a supplement, but it is not instruction. I was talking to somebody ridiculously amazing on the phone today. And we have kids in life skills all the way up to valedictorians. We have shoved all of our children in front of computers every day. Do you think I'm going to put up with that? No.
Okay,
yes, you're right. You're right, Heidi. Imagine math. Imagine this. Yeah.
Who at the team writes the goals? Is it just the math teacher and parents if it's a math goal, or would the whole team need to contribute?
So the whole team has the opportunity to contribute. Obviously, if you're somebody that has something to do with that math instruction, you're the parent, you're the diagnostician. Maybe if you're the general ed teacher at the meeting and you teach PE, you might not have any input, but all are allowed to have input for sure.
Okay, and then another parent's asking, why does the school want an evaluation for a 15-year-old? Isn't it too late?
No, I did an evaluation last year on a junior. I was trying to convert that to numbers, 11th grade. Also, I will do a full IEP evaluation for somebody going into the 18 to 21 program because they're probably going to be in front of a court and they want to get services for an adult, and that's easier for SSI services. But it's never too late. It would be very little, though, that I could actually do for a senior unless he was also going to be part of the 18 to 21 program.
Okay, and we did an open records request, and all I got was the SPED file. What do I tell them now? I want all of the records.
So you have to be specific. You have to ask. So when you ask for open records, it's just too general, right? So you have to say, I need all of the records that exist for my student that has his name on it or his school ID number. And then you have to write all that out. For the last 3 years, Miss Smith, Miss Johnson, Miss Jones, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, his coaches, the bus driver, everything. You have to list out everything that you want. Otherwise, they don't have a complete obligation to provide that to you.
Okay, and then my advocate said the school won't do anything for a dysphagia evaluation. Help.
So dysphagia is a condition that impacts children at schools that struggle with eating in the normed range, right? They pocket food, they hold it in their mouth, they gulp really fast or whatever. But yeah, then you ask for a dysphagia evaluation. They love doing those as well. Big districts usually have somebody on staff that does that. Either way, there's somebody private that can do that.
Okay. My son is currently enrolled into the 504. His biggest struggle is reading. I haven't seen any improvement since he was put in 504. Any recommendations?
IEP? Yeah. Here's the deal. An IEP, testing for special ed does one of two things, right? It identifies or eliminates. And I need to know that. I need to know that, are we right? Are we wrong? So it identifies or eliminates.
Okay, you're getting some love. People saying, thank you for advocating for my child. We need you in Tennessee.
I love Tennessee. I love Franklin. It's very fancy. It's kind of like Austin West.
And can behavior disorders and or ADHD qualify you for an IEP?
So it has to be one of the 13 federal eligibilities. So there's emotional disturbance, which might be a behavior. It could be anxiety. It could be depressive conditions. ADHD is an other health impairment, OHI, which is a medical condition that is acute, that is expected to impact an individual for a lifetime and may be treated with medicine.
Does the school have to include data from assessments and testing from outside sources in the student's IEP?
So the school is going to include data that's provided to the multidisciplinary team members. So if you don't provide the information to them, it's not going to be at the assessment. So I certainly have my clients provide any private evaluations, any summary letters from therapists that they're seeing, any of that.
Okay, and any specific trainings that you offer, you know of, to be the best, or to help this person be the best intervention specialist they could be? I learned so much from you. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. So, I mean, certainly join the Academy. We're there every, I was going to say every night. It feels like we're there every night. Every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So the Academy is an online platform. We teach live for 2 hours every Tuesday night. We have 5 million hours of trainings archived with workbooks. They're in series. So we teach on federal requirements, state requirements, the application, the obligations of state and federal entities. And then we opened up for questions at the end. But yeah, we would love to have you at the Academy.
Okay, and for students pending evaluations, what interventions do you request the school to put in during testing? So when the schools are putting in a 504 while they evaluate.
Sure. So I always will take a 504 while we're waiting for testing to be completed. And then at that point, you just figure out, you know, what sort of accommodations do they need? Do they need an IHP, an individualized healthcare plan? Do they need medications? Do they need a behavior plan? Any of those things that could still sit inside of a 504.
Can you have an IEP accommodation that allows a student access to snacks or a water bottle throughout the day?
Absolutely. I have kiddos that need snacks and water for a myriad of reasons. Sometimes because they're hungry. And sometimes because they're thirsty. Sometimes because they've been through trauma. Sometimes if you take a lot of medicine, then you drink more water. Sometimes I have kids that have to drink water because they struggle to naturally go to the restroom, and that helps them force that. So there's a myriad of reasons, but absolutely you can have that.
And how would you approach the conversation that the school started having a para attend classes with your child, but it's not listed in the IEP?
Why? Why is there a para with my child? So any educational product that's delivered to your child, you have the reason to know the why.
Okay, and a five-year-old with cerebral palsy was reevaluated for kindergarten, it says. She is in a 2.5-hour PSD class. I'm not sure what that acronym is. CST wants to declassify her and give her a 504 help.
Declassify her. So she doesn't have cerebral palsy anymore? That's amazing. So if she still has cerebral palsy, and depending on how her cerebral palsy impacts her, it could impact her language. It could impact her ability to ambulate throughout the building. It could impact her with physical therapy. It could impact her in OT. We declassify documents from the government. We don't declassify children.
So there's a lot of special ed teachers saying they're considering early retirement, but lots of people in general saying, how do you become an advocate?
You become an advocate by willing to fight for kiddos to get what they want. So we have a number of ways we can do it. We have a virtual training coming up. Y'all tell me I'm not that smart. Like the second weekend in April, it'll actually be a live training, but it'll be virtual. So you can be in your bathtub in Alaska, just keep your camera off. Or you can be, on the beach in Miami. So we'll have that. We haven't had that in over a year. We have in-person trainings. We have one coming up this weekend, whatever this weekend is. The 18th and 19th of February. We have one the 16th and 17th of March. Those are both in Houston. And then no matter where you are, we always have virtual on demand. And you can just take it right now. You just log on and it starts the class.
Okay, and can we file due process with state and federal? We are in Austin, Texas.
No. And one of the things that we just got out of a training in the Mastermind is you got to pick your poison, right? How is it that you'd like to irritate the school district and their attorneys? So if you're going to file, there's you have one of 6 dispute resolution options. You've got to pick the one that you want, and then each of them has kind of an expected outcome. You file a state complaint. If you win, the district's going to be in a corrective action plan for many months, maybe a few years. If you win a due process or a mediation, that's probably going to be services for the student inside of the school. If you win an OCR complaint, which is what we are teaching heavily on now, which some people are not happy about, then you are going to get sort of, in my experience, a weightier resolution that might include a better resolution than state complaints. Of course, those are usually sealed and agreements with the federal government, so I couldn't share those, but they're really good. So be there tomorrow night when we talk about filing with the OCR.
Along the OCR lines, what happens if we move and the OCR has not been opened yet?
So if the violation occurred, the violation occurred. So I had a kiddo that her and her family moved from, I won't tell you where, Washington to Georgia. And the investigator, and the investigator is a federal attorney, by the way, said, what do you want to do? I said, well, so the resolution for my OCR complaints, parts of them are compensatory time for the student to return them to the place they would have been had the IDA violation not occurred. And so we can do tutoring in Georgia the same way we could do tutoring in Washington.
Okay, perfect. And this person's asking, child is deaf and 2. Where do they start?
So if your student is deaf and hard of hearing, you want to go to your school district, reach out to the district level because it may not be the campus closest to you, and ask for an intake for special education testing. Tell them about your student's known disabilities and set that up. Because they can start school when they're 3 for ECSC, Early Childhood Special Education.
Okay, and for someone getting into advocacy, do you recommend working for an advocate or starting your own agency?
Is this a trick question?
No, it's in there.
People are flawed. Not me, but other people. And so I don't recommend that any of my new advocates go into business together because you are on the hook for what you say in a meeting. I know that if I say something in a meeting, I'm not going to be sued for unlawful practice of law because I'm not violating the parameters of state and federal law. I think a new advocate might very excitedly say something that was not appropriate, invalid, or maybe not the same way that you would do it, right? I'm a very specific kind of advocate. People either love me or lump me, which is completely fine because they both have an L. And so I wouldn't recommend that advocates go into business with other advocates. If you find an advocate agency that you like, then if that's a fit for you, that might be a good start. And then maybe after you build your clientele, you can leave. But again, if you go to work for an agency, are those clients that you get then clients of the agency? So just make sure that you've really read the entire document that you're going to sign. And I'm going to take 2 more questions so we can hop off and be ready for the Amazing Academy tonight.
Hey, this sounds like a trick question as well. It says, can goals be individualized? The school says not possible, that the math goals for daily mastery versus long-term.
Now, Bonnie, I don't know why you're making up questions. There's no need for that, sweetie.
Sounds like
the I in IEP stands for, what are you talking about? Can the goals be individualized? Well, I don't know. Let's just go back 47 years. Let's do that. Let's individualize them based on each student's unique needs. Oh, the lipstick. You guys want to know what the lipstick is? It's Wet and Wild, and it's 68 cents. Wet and Wild. It's the best. 68 cents. I know. It's really kind of the most important thing, isn't it? I know I wasn't supposed to read the comments, but I'm sorry. Sorry, Alicia. Forgive me.
Okay, and then last one. How can I stress to my son's team, who is 11, and still can't read, that they're not helping him get on track?
You need an advocate. Even if you bring your Aunt Myrtle and say she's an advocate, there's something about numbers that move things, because you need to get, if he can't read, it says in Reading Rockets 1999, children that do not become successful readers will struggle to be successful in life. So that's important. I do want to answer a question for Kiki. She asked me where I store all my decorations, which is kind of funny. I rotate them out. I give them away. So, yes, because otherwise I would be the hoarder of the decorations. Did you guys see that I just moved the pinks here? And then we added some greenery, which traumatized Alicia. She was like, I'm going to need a memo before you do that. And then those are 2 little fake pink things from the IKEA. I do what I can for the people. Yes, and my comedy channel, if you go to YouTube and you type in Mayer Cunningham Dry Bar Comedy, my full half-hour special is there. And guess what color jacket I'm wearing? Guess. Guess. Anybody? Pink. Yeah. And I just want to say I love you guys. Thank you for all the words this week. We love you. We're doing the right thing. We're serving kiddos. We're changing a gazillion year antiquated system called education and special education. And it comes with some love and some rotten tomatoes. And we're here for all of it. Remember, when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training. We'll see you tomorrow night for the OCR training.
Okay, was it only my phone that decided to go